Welcome to the Practically Nothing Podcast. This is your host, Ordo, and today I'm joined by just me, just Ordo. Kudos if you get that reference. So, what is this episode? Well, it's not an official episode number count. I decided that I just wanted to do a update to talk about the podcast, talk about the future of it. No, we are not gone. We had a long hiatus, I'll admit. Not by design, though. Life happens, things happen. So, basically what had happened is we had actually planned to do, I believe, I want to say it's like episode 9. I can't remember the episode count. It's been that long. So, all four of us, me, Sled, Cardwiz, and Bodyguard, we got together to record an episode based on the Netflix Castlevania animated series, anime. I'm not really sure how you classify that. And honestly, the recording, I was not happy with it at all. So I basically shelved it. I said, maybe I can edit it down. Maybe I can cut away some of the fat. And in the end, I never touched it after we recorded it. For whatever reason, I did not like that episode. I didn't tell the guys about it. I just let it sit on the shelf, and I thought, you know what, maybe this whole podcast thing has run its course. It was a fun little side project. Sometimes it can be a little bit, I don't know, like a work to get the guys together, and that's no fault of their own. It's no fault of my own. It's just life. It's really hard to, pull four of us together, or even three of us, or even sometimes just the two of us together to actually get a podcast up and running. And it's or not. So I was just like, maybe it's not worth it. Maybe it's just time to let this podcast die. But over the past few months, I've had, some friends and family say, we really liked it when you did the podcast, Ordo. When's it coming back? And honestly, I never really had a answer for them, because I was just like, well, there's this and then there's that. And I want to say this was back in September. So, that's right before, Thanksgiving, Christmas, year starts. And then right around mid-October, I want to say. And that was fun. And then I had another tooth. Actually, that tooth that broke, I ended up having to have it removed. And then I had a really bad cavity in another one. Me and my aunt, we had went to this Italian restaurant that we had some gift cards for, which, by the way, was absolutely terrible. Great mozzarella sticks, though. But I had this mozzarella stick, and obviously I couldn't chew on the side that I had a broken tooth on, so I was just like, well, I will chew on the other side. And this mozzarella stick just lightly touched my tooth, and it just put me down. I was holding my jaw. There were tears running down my face for a solid good 10 minutes of the only thing you could really describe it as an awkward silence, as my aunt was just trying to eat her food and look at me, and I'm just like, oh no, oh no, oh no. Tears running down my face and stuff. So anyways, obviously between the two procedures I had to have done, I really couldn't say anything on a mic without drooling or whatever. And that was pretty awful. After that, Thanksgiving started, so we're all busy. And then after that, the Christmas months happen. So, you're working every day, you're exhausted, you don't feel like doing anything when you come home. And it's Christmas time is always really busy, really tough. So, actually, let me stop. Speaking of Christmas, I actually got a new mic for Christmas. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing this again. And I was really surprised when I got it. I was just like, oh, this is a new mic. And I was looking at it, and my aunt actually got it for me. And so I decided I want to start recording again. I'll put this mic to good use, and it sounds great. It sounds much better than my old one. I actually did some solo tests, listening to it. I'm like, I can really hear the bass in my voice, and that's really good. I guess actually I should have probably mentioned this. I'm still a little bit sick. I'm actually getting over a head cold, so that's another reason why my voice is going to sound a little different. In addition to this microphone, I had January has not been a really good month for me, honestly. I've had the flu, and then I got over that, and then I had a head cold. I kind of got over it, and then we moved, and it feels like all that came right back. So that has not been very easy to get over with, and I'm having to drink water a lot. So if there's kind of like a small pause or whatever, it's probably because I'm having to stop, take a drink of water, come back to recording. So I'm going to talk about the update in a second, but I figured I'll just tell you what I've been doing other than all that boring stuff like moving and whatnot. I'm still getting settled in. Most of my stuff is unpacked. I have pictures to hang up on the wall. The new place is really nice. I've got a bigger room than I did before, so I've got more room to kind of like breathe. I feel like the last couple apartments I've lived in, I really haven't had that me space. It's just like, well, I get here, there's my bed, the bed's beside the desk, Chester George is right here, and it's just like, oh man, it's just, I don't know, it's nice to come home, sit down, relax, and be able to have just like a little bit of space to call your own. And I really love that. So that's really been what's up with me. We're my aunt's mostly going through all the stuff that's in the living room because she has a ton of stuff in there, and that has not all been unpacked yet. So that is kind of a hassle to do. And she's the one that's been on that. I have not been on that because she is so picky and specific about, you know, what things go where. I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'll roll with whatever. So there's that. But entertainment-wise, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, and for it I got Zelda, Mario Kart, I'm trying to think what else, Mario Odyssey, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, I've played a little bit of each game. Like, I already played through Legend of Zelda on the Wii U, but obviously, I mean, it's the Switch. Come on, you can take this thing anywhere. Why would I not want to play Zelda on it? Major Zelda fan. So Zelda is kind of sitting on a back seat for now while I play Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm about 65 hours into it, and it's really fun. I do have some issues with it. It's there's something really off about it, I guess. And actually, there was a story that came out today that said only 40 developers worked on this game. 40. And for the uninformed, you may be thinking, well, 40 developers is a lot of people. And honestly, in today's gaming, whatever you want to call it, 40 people is not a lot to work on what is considered, is it considered a AAA title? I don't know. Well, let's just say it's a AAA title. I mean, it did recently sell over 1 million copies, so I guess we'll call it a AAA title. But in comparison, the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild had, I want to say like 300 developers. Don't quote me on that number, but it was definitely in the hundreds. And some of those people, for about 50 to 60 of them, actually came from Molotov Soft, who is the company that makes Xenoblade. So, for only 40 people to achieve a game like this big is very nice. I will say that. So, I've been playing it. I got Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I've been trying to get good at it, but because I'm doing night shift, my sleep schedule is kind of weird, and I just don't really feel like playing something that's, so intensive. So I kind of only play it on my days off. It is really a nice looking Dragon Ball Z game. It's probably, man, do I really want to say the best Dragon Ball Z game I've ever played? How about this? It's the game I've dreamed of since maybe the late 90s, where I was trying to think, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, those type of games made by Capcom. I had always wanted one with Dragon Ball, and I always thought to myself, man, why doesn't Capcom get on this? Use this engine, Dragon Ball characters, it goes together perfectly. That was the late 90s, early 2000s, if you want to say that. And now it's 2018, and this game is coming out. So it took that long for a dream to come true, if you want to even call it that. So that is that is also something that is very nice. Excuse Excuse me, there goes my voice. It's very nice to play. It looks like the anime. It plays wonderfully. I'm still trying to get a hold on it. I want to look up tutorials, and I really want to get good at it. Or at least, where I can at least play a little bit online without getting, raffle stomped by, everyone. But then again, I mean, it's fighting games. You kind of expect that. I don't think there's ever been a game where I did not go and just get completely stomped by anyone. First person shooters though, like Halo? Come on, man. I can't be touched. No. I'm lying about that. I'm lying about that one. Yeah, I've had good Halo days, bad Halo days. But anyways, other than that, I have been not really doing anything. Work a little, play a little, do some voice recording tests on this microphone, and now I'm talking to you guys. So now it comes to the big question that you guys may be thinking about. What is happening with the podcast? Well, we're bringing it back, to put it in layman's terms. Bodyguard and I talked about this, and we've been kind of discussing it on and off for a few months now, that a 4-man podcast is just a little bit too much for us, We're recording this through Skype, and we may be moving to Discord pretty soon. I'm not sure. We really haven't talked about that. But there's the 4 of us recording, and we're trying to use hand signs to, signal when one of us wants to talk or bring up a point. And then sometimes we talk over each other, and there's just awkward silence. And then sometimes there's awkward silence for all 4 of us, or maybe one of us dominates the conversation more than the other because we're, more passionate about a subject or more informed on a subject. And I looked back and I listened to a couple of podcasts, and I believe there's a couple of podcasts, that Bodyguard and I did together that were just him and me, just chit-chatting, like normal conversations. And I felt like the flow for those were actually really, really well done. There was a consistent back and forth. We were good with our subjects, and actually, Cardos and I have one together too with when we talked about Fire Emblem, and that one's also, I think, a really good one. Our episode 3. I've actually listened to that one a couple of times, and so I'm reading this book. It's called again, I kind of gonna have to pull from the nerdy side, but I'm reading this book based off Darth Bane of the Star Wars universe, and he has this thing called the Rule of Two. He himself is a Sith Lord. And so instead of having a ton of Sith always betraying each other and stuff, he decides, you know what? I only need 2. I need 1 to embody the power and 1 to crave the power. I thought that was kind of cool. So I kind of made up my own rule of 2. I was talking to Bodyguard because, we're both Star Wars dudes. And I was just like, what about if I had my own rule of 2? 1 to commentate, 1 to moderate. He liked it. And so Cardwiz and Sled are not being cut. However, our main goal is to only have a 2-person podcast between a rotating mix of each of us. I'll basically be there to record their conversation, and then they will talk about whatever it is. Or it's just me and someone else, whether it's me and Cardwiz, me and Sled, me and Bodyguard. Or maybe it's Bodyguard and Sled. Bodyguard, examples. It's just it's way easier, I believe. I want to do it for a consistent flow. I want to do it for, I don't know. I listened to, I was about to say the name of that podcast, but I'm not going to say it. I listened to a podcast, and while I do like it, I feel like they have 4 or 5 people, and then sometimes they'll have a guest, and it kind of feels like sometimes they'll talk over each other, or again, it's sort of like with us, one person will dominate the conversation, or maybe their segments are a little bit too long when they're talking about, hey, this is what we've been doing, this is what we've been playing, and that's not really a knock against their podcast, because I think their podcast it's good. It's much like ours. It's not something that's expertly done. It's just something that's done lost my train of thought. I'm here solo, so it's I'm sitting here looking at the wall trying to bounce things off. But no, sometimes they kind of talk over each other, they run over each other. One person dominates the conversation for too long, or they're, hey, this is what we've been up to type thing is too long. And so it takes them like maybe 40 minutes to get to the main subject. And it's just like, man, this is really kind of a drag sometimes. And I've not listened to all their episodes. I think they reached 30 episodes recently. And a lot of times I kind of just tune out or turn off because it's just yada, yada, yada. Like I'm doing now. I'm just doing yada, yada, yada. So that is why our new rule of 2 is going to exist. Not to say that we're always going to have 2 people. Sometimes we may have 3. Very rarely do I ever plan for us to go 4 people on a podcast, even if it's something that we're all an expert on. So we've been looking through a few things, and Bodyguard and I, or actually mostly Bodyguard, he went through and looked at a bunch of different subjects, and he picked out, who are the 2 best people for a thing. And I have to give a lot of credit to him. He is far more, well, let me put it this way. Sometimes when he and I get together for ideas, sometimes I'm the person with the idea and he's the person that filters it. And sometimes he's the idea giver and I'm the guy that filters it. So we really bounce off each other creative wise. And that's why I really like, discussing things with him. But I want to continue this podcast. I really want to. Some days I will actually just sit at work and think about all the things that I'm going to talk about, all the things I want to say. In fact, I actually thought about doing this for like 2 days now, since I'm working nights and there's not really anything exciting happening. I actually thought about what I want to say in this update, what I wanted to mention, what would be right, what would be wrong. I thought about how I should get my lazy self up and actually take my mic out of the box and use it. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's a creative process, though. Not all creative processes are equal. Some of them are just snappy, and then sometimes they take a lot. And sometimes doing the podcast, it does take a lot out of me. Sometimes, it's not just recording your voice and then just uploading it. You got to record it. Sometimes I have to cut out, and I'm sure you've heard it on this one with the ahs and the ums and the and some of the silent dead space. For the YouTube, since we only do it on YouTube and not SoundCloud, because I don't really want to pay anything for SoundCloud or something that's not, I don't want to say doing numbers, but if I'm not, I don't know. Anyways, but then I have to like edit the sound to the video, even though it's not really a video podcast. I put some like practically nothing episode, and then I have to make sure the audio's lined up, make sure that same image is done throughout the video. And actually, I do want to add some visual stuff, like whether it's like maybe a trailer or something's playing for it, or I don't know, maybe like some pictures are flashing through to show you different things. It's something I've worked at, something I've looked at. I also thought about, I've actually done this on my own personal YouTube channel where I just talk about stuff where I wanted to basically kind of have like a little bit of background music, but then YouTube's so finicky with things right now. Like, I don't really think I want to do that. I want the main focus to be our voice and our opinion. So I am actually not going to do that. But a few podcasts that I can remember off the top of my head is Cardos and I talked about doing another one focused on Fire Emblem, not a series overview like we did before, but Fire Emblem 7 turns 15 this year, and so he and I decided that we're going to get together and we're going to replay this game and talk about it. I know Final Fantasy turned 30 recently, and Bodyguard's a big fan of Final Fantasy. I know Sled really likes Final Fantasy, and so I think they would be really good for that. I think Bodyguard put down 90s wrestling for me and Sled. And those are the ones off the top of my head. I know there's some other ones that are listed in there with Card Wiz and somebody. Or there's one where it's like it's Bodyguard and Open, or it's Ordo and Open. And so we have to kind of pick and choose our spots for what exactly we're going to do. And that can be a process. Excuse me for a moment while I take a sip of water. Stay hydrated, folks. So in the end, this is the Practically Nothing podcast update. I hope you'll continue to listen with us. It's like I said, it's a process. Some of our episodes are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad. But going forward with this new podcast format, I think we may have something. So if you would continue to watch with us, listen with us, I'll be really happy, and we'll hopefully continue to bring good discussions to come. I really don't know how to sign this off, so I will just tell you good night and good luck.